There we go.
Okay,
All right.
There we go. There we
Good
go.
morning. My name is Robyn Erkelens. As mentioned, John and I work for Verizon in the Emerging Technology Solutions Group. If we go forward, our team has two main purposes inside of Verizon. The first is solving customer challenges. So my team is working directly with customers, customers like Walmart, others that are here as well, to identify their problem statements, to understand their business requirements, their technology requirements, and to validate that the tools that we have in our toolbox can address their business challenges. Tools like computer vision, autonomous mobile robots, and location technology. Once we have that validated, we'll pull in John's team.
Yeah, and let me just give you a little background on our team. We started out a few years ago as an incubation team, buying and selling software companies above the network to try to drive 5G. And this year we moved into a group called Technology and Product Development. It's a $20 billion business inside of Verizon. And the goal of it is really to create all of the IP within Verizon. And so as my team, which is the solution architecture, the delivery, and the support teams, move to build end-to-end solutions based on requirements Robyn gives us, we take a look at all of this IP that we've acquired and third-party IP, and we bring it all together into a solution for customers to kind of ease them into this digital transformation that they're trying to do. And so that's what my team does.
And these solutions aren't readily available off the shelf. These are all innovation.
Cool.
So, AI-driven automation in distribution centers. We wanted to set the table. You heard from ChatGPT. Here's what we're not talking about is that generative AI topic that's all in the news. We're not creating text outputs, original images or videos. What we are doing is really what is called traditional AI.
Right. And you know, it's not to say that we won't get into generative AI in the next few years, but today we're really focused on making business impacts. I want to make a distinction that we're not talking about generative AI, but we're also not talking about the other end of the spectrum, event processing. Event processing has been done for years. You have sensors, they create a output, and we do a if-then statement, and we create some type of business impact. What we're talking about here with artificial intelligence is really mashing up data, streams of data across the organization, bringing it all together, fusing that data, taking a look at it in context and normalizing that data, and then applying analytics to it in some way and machine learning to it to understand and constantly refine the data so that we can actually build these business outcomes for customers, predict on trends, and really automate processes that are already existing across the organization.
With both models, what we can say is the quality of the data and the amount of data really matter. So we are looking for great data sources and a lot of it so that we can get better, more predictive, better outcomes.
Yeah, and it obviously all starts with what are you trying to get done? Where are the processes that you feel least confident in, that you feel have the most opportunity for automation? And then it's getting down into the data. So if I can make
Perfect
this
segue.
change.
Yeah, we're having trouble with the
there
clicker.
So I'll take this slide. So on this slide, I want to just sort of give a little bit of a background. As companies sensorize their environments, as they bring in more things that move into their environments, they're trying to extract more data out of things. Verizon in general feels that this really sets up the opportunity to pull through 5G. So we see the future of 5G being very much inside the plant, and creating this infrastructure that's ubiquitous, reliable, secure, all of these things. So in the far upper right, left-hand corner, you see the shout out to 5G there. You're also going to hear today, if you haven't already heard about the brand that we have in security, everything we do in security, and obviously continuity. Verizon's got a right to play and has a big brand in it. We're the most reliable network. Where you're probably not as familiar with hearing about Verizon is really the helping customers get the data out of their environment. And so on the far left-hand side, that's that statement about real-time edge insights. We're working with customers to understand the outcomes, but then understand the data sets that are needed. Of those data sets, there's going to be data that's locked up into brownfield applications. It could be things like CCTV systems that are already in place that we can leverage. And it might be us going in and helping install new sensor networks or new infrastructure, or new technology like LiDAR or something like that. We pull all of that data up. We fuse that data together to really understand what it's telling us contextually across an area. So most of our solutions aren't one type of technology, it's a mashup of many different types of technology. We then obviously take it into our analytics engine, normalize the data, we transform that data, we contextualize that data, and we apply analytics to it, and through those analytics we train up models. We constantly do machine learning to improve our models, and that helps us move customers into this sort of predictive modeling of what their environment is, or this automation of processes. So this is kind of what we're talking about at a high level. This is our framework, if you will. And within this, I mentioned that we had an investment company, NBI. We bought a lot of tech over the years. Much of it's software. So a lot of what we do is internal IP to Verizon that we've really refined over the years and continue to refine.
So what kind of problems are we trying to solve for customers? We're going to show you about 6 use cases in distribution center type environments today. Typically, our customers at a very high level are struggling with very similar challenges. They need to drive efficiency, but they have a ton of manual processes. They have workforce challenges. They have inconsistency in data sources or lack of visibility into physical environments. And they're really trying to merge those data sources so they have a single pane of glass view, and they can automate and orchestrate outcomes. And you can't do that with disconnected systems. We typically see opportunities in 4 main areas: asset and inventory management, improved efficiency and automated material handling, security and worker safety. And we're not going to get into this too much today, but also guest and employee experience. So we have, John and I get really excited about this information. So as an invitation to the audience, if you've got any questions, we'll be more than happy to either after the talk or even during, raise your hand. We've got 6 use cases to run through today. We'll set up the problem statement. We'll set up how we address the problem statement with technology and AI. We may not make it through all 6 use cases.
Last night when we did the practice, we were only at an hour and a half by the time we got done, and we had to really figure out how to shorten this up. So
we really like our jobs.
But again, if you have questions about a particular thing that we're breezing through, raise your hand or we can take it offline. We've got many more beyond this. I think it's what happens when you get involved in actually deploying these things and you see all the war wounds and kind of collect all of that information, you get excited about it. So you want to set up this first one?
I'll set this first one up. So this particular customer is a distribution center. They're a fulfillment center. So they are building pallets for distribution. Everything that they ship out is on a pallet. So they're building these mixed pallets. Pallets need to be built with the heaviest items on the bottom, the lightest items on top, so the bottom items don't get crushed. This company was seeing, they were having kind of varied results in their units per hour, and they get paid by units per hour, so they want to increase their efficiency and increase those units per hour. They were also seeing a lot of inconsistencies, variability through their efficiencies throughout the day, and they couldn't understand why. Likewise, they were having a lot of safety violations when two forklifts would go into the same aisle at the same time. So to really address these issues and get some visibility around where these forklifts are, John's going to go over how we implemented the technology.
And I think the target they gave us, unlike a lot of companies would come and say, we want you to roll out this tech. They didn't say that. They didn't give us a requirement on tech. What they said is, we want you to hit, I think it was 50 picks per
Yeah, it was a 15% increase in units per hour.
Yeah, and so we had to hit a units pick per hour is what we did. And so when we looked at it, we noticed everything was being moved by the forklifts, right? And so the easy thing to do was sensorize up the forklifts. And what we needed to know is we needed it to be real time, and we needed to know where that forklift was at down to the sub-meter level, right? There's a lot of different location tech out there, as probably all of you know. You deal with it, right? And it all comes down to the environment you're trying to do, what you're trying to sensorize, what the cost point is. We had very strict cost points around this. And what we wanted to do is deploy a very light infrastructure. So it just so happens one of those investments I mentioned that we made a few years ago was a company called Senyan, and we have a product called Verizon Indoor Positioning Service, Verizon IPS, which is an analytics platform. What it does, it takes traditional location services in, using analytics, it refines that. And so the solution that we came up with was putting a cellular to BLE tracker on each forklift. And then we took small $10 BLE tags, coin-operated tags. We deposit them every 50 feet within this warehouse, and so we could create a whole map. And we actually walked the map and understood in our mapping application where a forklift could be versus where it couldn't. Like, it can't be inside of a wall. We know that. It can't be inside of a pallet. We know that. So we set up these traffic maps. Through this, what we do is the tracker actually triangulates between all the beacons that it sees based on the signal strength. It correlates that into a distance, and it figures out approximately where it is. That technology is nothing new, and that technology will give you like a 3 to 5 meter accuracy. What we do on top of that is we pull the accelerometer data out of the tracker, because the idea is if a vehicle is moving in a certain direction and we don't see it slow down, we don't see it speed up, we don't see it turn right or turn left, we can extrapolate that it should be in this next area in the next second time. And so we can sort of extrapolate the math. And so that helps us get to a further level of refinement. Beyond that, what we do is we know if that next position is in the middle of a wall, it can't be there. So we logically snap it back into the map where it should be. And by doing that, we were able to get down to sub-meter accuracy. We do the pings about 15 per second, so we can get very granular information on where that is. And we could understand dwell times per vehicle. We could understand when vehicles were congested in the same area. We could watch the traffic movement, and we could compare that to information that we integrated into their WMS system to understand where the route should have been. And we identified problems with their WMS system that was rerouting people wrong. We also integrated into Timeco, so we were able to pull down who was driving the forklift, and we were able to give them management metrics back that allowed them to see most productive drivers and least productive drivers to help them understand if they had a management opportunity there, right? We really didn't define any problems, but we gave them the eyes on the floor at every single point in time in real time that they could actually manage around issues that were slowing them down and increase their picks, and we ended up hitting the target.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Let me go to the next one.
We'll go to the next one. This particular company is a large manufacturer. They're really suffering with workforce challenges. They have full-time positions, part-time positions that they can't fill. They have people that don't show up for shifts, and their operations really shut down when they don't have enough people on staff. The job that we're really addressing here is the refulfillment of the pieces needed in the assembly line. Right now, a worker uses the vehicle. They pull across a cart full of those parts, and they're replacing parts at specific intervals. They're replacing carts on demand. When there's not enough people on staff, it greatly impacts their operations. So this particular company is really looking for a way to automate those operations so it doesn't affect their production line.
And I would say that this is one of the most frequent opportunities that we're seeing is people that have AGVs or they have forklifts, and they're looking to move into the AMR area, and they just really don't know how, because once you go all automated, you have to automate your processes, you have to create call flows and all of that type of thing. And so while Verizon doesn't build robots, we have a pretty big ecosystem of partners that do build robots. And another one of those acquisitions we made a few years ago was we bought a company called Incubed IT that makes a fleet management solution for robots. So we own the software that manages all these robots. It makes it easy for customers to actually deploy the AMRs onto their floor. We map the whole floor. We tell robots where they can go and can't go. We build simulators of it beforehand, so we help people understand how many robots they need to handle the loads that they need. We map the type of robot. Is it a fork system? Is it a shuttle tote? What weight is it taking? We help design all the way through that, and then we deploy those robots on the floor, and then we do a lot of fabrication, because robots got to marry up exactly to your racking system. If they don't marry up right, bins, totes, pallets get skewed on it, and it creates a whole lot of problems. We also found that we have a lot of problems with connectivity, because we need reliable, pervasive, always-on connectivity that just works, and we're having a lot of problems because these things move, sometimes at speed. We were having problems with Wi-Fi. So today we bundle these with 5G systems in places that don't have that, so that we can get this very consistent coverage area and the ability for these robots to talk up, and then we give them a full understanding of where all their robots are in time, and we build the integration into their workloads. So virtual call buttons, IOs to understand when boxes are on racks and need to be offloaded on racks. So we help customers all the way through that process. The goal is to give them an end-to-end solution to help them into this new world of autonomous mobile robots.
So quick aside, this is off script, of why 5G matters in this environment. When you think about putting any kind of fleet into an environment, they're mobile. The points between access points of a Wi-Fi system, there's often packet lost, a dropped connection with a Wi-Fi system where there just isn't with mobility. It's meant to be mobile. When you have AMRs, there's two very important things where that connectivity really matters. One is when they're communicating with each other, and that's where that fleet management software comes in. If an AMR isn't aware of the robots in its environment, they're going to treat each other like foreign objects. And when they do that, their efficiency drops because they have to figure out a way around each other. However, if you don't have that packet loss, if they understand where the other robots in the fleet are, they're automatically going to be communicating together so that they're symbiotic in how they move, and you have greater efficiency. Likewise, if they're carrying any kind of payload, if they're taking video, if they are updating an inventory system, when you have that connectivity loss, they're going to lose location information. They're going to lose that payload that they're trying to upload. So 5G is really important if you're talking about AMRs.
So I think you were mentioning inventory, and so I'll transition to this next slide.
So this is another area where we have a lot of opportunities. We're going to highlight one. This is probably one of our second most common use cases. With this particular company, and this is really timely right now, there are new regulations around chain of custody for fresh products. So with this particular customer, they had two main business concerns. One is they invested in these reusable carts or cartons to ship their product to retailers, and they weren't getting them back. They didn't know, they knew who ordered what, but they didn't know which drivers picked up how many carts from which retailer. They really had no visibility into where these trays were in their environment. And they were losing a significant amount of money every year replacing lost totes. In addition, they're looking forward to complying with those new regulations to prove chain of custody, to prove conditions throughout the supply chain from their location to their retailers. So to solve for this challenge.
Yeah, so we could pick from a lot of different location technology. There's no shortage of location technologies out there. But when you get into one of these situations, especially with inventory, you have to consider that you might not be able to claim your tracker when it goes out the door. It's got to go out and be disposable. You need something of a small form factor. And probably most important, depending on the size of the asset that you're trying to track, you need something that's very low cost, like sub-dollar. And so this is a partner technology that we use, and what it is, it's a stick-on, about a postage stamp size sticker with a embedded BLE circuit in it, and it does energy harvesting. So it actually will extract energy from the ambient Wi-Fi in the room. It charges a capacitor, and then it blurts out its ID, and it also blurts out temperature. And so by putting readers around areas that are within distance, we can understand what products are within that area. Maybe it's a loading dock where we want to actually watch all the product come in. Maybe it's on a vehicle, like Robyn mentioned, dropping off totes. I think bread trays was one of them that we had. They were losing bread trays at retailers. We can actually see where the last known position of that was, and we can identify the retailer that bread tray was at. We also have, like one customer they're a distiller, and they lose a lot of high-end alcohol. And so they wanted to start tracking this high-end alcohol, so we're able to put the sticker on, we're able to look at the choke points, put readers around. When it goes out through a choke point, we create an event. We see that, it's left the building, and now I can actually tie that in with things like CCTV, snap the image of the video, correlate those in real time so that you can go back and view what actually happened. How did your Louis walk out the door, and why are you missing that, right? So we have many, many types of use cases for this. There's another one where we have a retailer who has hoses, syrup for soda, and they want to track the condition of that as it comes back through and gets cleaned, and then they want to lose it. They don't want to lose it, and so we can track it using this type of technology.
And like John said, there's lots of different integrations. So for example, we can integrate with obviously GPS, with inventory systems, with the telematics systems, for example. All right, this next use case, this particular customer, another CPG manufacturing facility. They're a manufacturing facility as well as a distribution facility. They only really deal with full pallets of inventory. They don't have a racking system, and they have a lot of manual processes. Every time a pallet comes in, it's supposed to be scanned. Every time they move a pallet, it's supposed to be scanned. The location is supposed to be scanned. But those manual processes were leading to a lot of missed data, a lot of missed scans. That translates into a not very accurate inventory list. So they had 7 to 9 employees per week doing cycle counts, understanding where inventory was. Even with that manual process, the inventory still wasn't right. They were fulfilling orders with product that didn't match the customer's order, because if they didn't, their entire fulfillment line would shut down. So they were really trying to solve this challenge. Also, I should mention, they were losing product to aging in place because they didn't know where the product was. So they had a good business case to solve this manual process with an automated process.
And so what we did, every product was moved, all of these pallets were moved by a forklift. So again, we took a look at the forklift as the item to sensorize. But we didn't have racking systems throughout it to put location tags all around. And so we ended up moving to a camera system. We put a camera bundle on this forklift, or these forklifts, and we had a camera that looked at pallets. So when you pulled up, we would notice that we were pulling a pallet onto the fork. We would then take a picture of the label, and using label reading analytics, we would understand what that was. Through a back-end integration with SAP that would give us everything about that pallet. That forklift would move around. It was a 1 million square foot warehouse. It would drop it somewhere, and we had bin locations. And so we would snap a picture of the bin location when it backed away, creating another event. We'd snap that picture, store that picture, and using object character recognition, we'd identify where that was and put a dot on the map. So we created a digital twin, essentially, of the entire warehouse, where every piece of product was, every pallet of product was on the map. Now, this was a really interesting use case, and it kind of underscored some things. You really have to understand how people use things. Like we didn't anticipate the way that people drive fork trucks. People would drive fork trucks, drop a pallet in the middle of the aisle, and then they'd back up, hit it from the side, and slam it into place, and so we couldn't see the bin location or the label or whatever. And so we had a lot of different iterations on like the mechanics, how we put cameras in so they don't get scraped off as they go into the truck, and how they can extend. This was a double pallet rack system, so how we dealt with that. But we also had a lot of different iterations on how we capture the labels, because people will just come up, slap a label wherever, and it wasn't as nice and pristine as knowing exactly where that label was. So I think the big learning out of this was you have to understand how people use the technology, and then you have to work towards that to make it easy for the technology to work.
There were also cultural issues. People don't like automation in some environments. They didn't want to use the forklifts with the cameras. So it was really an education about how it's going to make their job easier as well.
So we're getting long on time. Do you
we?
want to go a couple more, or?
So I'll leave it up to the audience. We'll wrap up. Are there any questions? We've got 2 use cases around yard management and 1 around computer vision for return logistics. Any questions from the audience? Well, why don't we go to the last slide and talk about lessons learned?
Okay.
So the first is that connectivity matters. Whether you're talking about a mobile solution like AMRs or whether you're talking about IoT or computer vision, connectivity matters. We're talking about heavy bandwidth applications. We're talking about applications that need really low latency because we need this information in real time. So connectivity matters for access to the compute power and to get the information from and to where it needs to go.
Yeah, we also, the platforms matter too. We have a lot of siloed monolithic platforms that are built that make it very hard to actually pull in information from other areas. So what we've built is a platform where we can ingest data from anything from ERP, yard management systems, time management systems, or we can ingest data from video streams or from IoT data or from sub-platforms. The other thinking around this is we never walk into a situation where a customer says, I don't have anything, build me something. It's always there's something there, there's a brownfield that we've got to interface to, and then we've got to build on top of that. And so that's a very important part.
Every location is going to be slightly different. We learned that with forklifts and forklift drivers. They behave one way in one facility, a different way in a different facility. Whether it's the distance between aisles or the culture of the environment, there's always something that's going to take retraining the model that you did in the primary location.
And probably the most important thing of this is that we're trying to get to business outcomes. Verizon's a natural vendor for IT and IS, but we're not the natural vendor for the operations and supply chain. It really takes sitting down with those people that understand those processes deep and understanding how you can automate and create efficiencies and what are their KPIs that they're measuring and how you can impact them. So having that direct relationship, that direct interview with the line of business is critical in these situations.
I think we can wrap it up right on time.
All right, perfect. You guys were excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you. Let's give these guys a big round of applause. You can put it right there. Thank you guys so much.